Welcome to the Simnotics. I am Alex, and today we are going to be reviewing a product that's actually mounted on me. You might not have even seen it, but it's this thing right here. It is called the Thronmax Space. It's a microphone, basically a lavalier microphone setup. We got this sent to us from Thronmax, so I wanted to give them a shout out. Thank you so much, Thronmax, for sending us a copy of the Space to review. Everything I'm going to be saying here are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. They're not seeing this before you guys are. So without further ado, let's talk about the Thronmax Space.
Everyone's hyping, kick it to the mix, cause they all heighten. When you're alive, you never really ever die. No laws, no kings, no need to testify.
So before we jump too deep into this, I want to also let you guys know that all the audio you're hearing recorded in this video is coming off of this, the Thronmax Space, which is mounted on me. You don't see any cables around me. I'm not wired in or anything because this is wirelessly transmitting to the receiver, which I do have mounted next to my Canon camera, the XC10 there. And so basically it is a wireless setup using a 2.4 gigahertz wireless transmission there. It is very reliable for the most part. I have not seen any issues with it. For this further disclaimer, I am about 3 feet away from the receiver. The max I've ever used this in my studio here is about like maybe 10 feet away, no problem, no latency, it picks up fine. You can actually monitor the audio as I'm talking and all of it sounds good. So props there, everything is as advertised. When you purchase this, the cool thing about this price point is that you get 2 lavalier microphones. So I have one mounted on me. There's a second one that you can have mounted on somebody else. And it also has the receiver once again, which is mounted on my Canon camera there. And basically I could be talking, I could be interviewing somebody with the second microphone, and both of us can be recording off of the receiver there, recording passing on to the receiver. What's happening here is that each microphone records on a single mono track. So basically I could be taking the first track, the second microphone would take the second track, left and right, vice versa. So what I am doing and what you're hearing right now is I'm using one, and I'm basically taking that single mono track and duplicating it to make it a dual mono track. So there's a difference between dual mono and stereo, but my dual mono track here is the easiest way to basically make this go through both channels, the left and the right, so you can hear me through your left and your right ear if you're wearing headphones or your speakers. Now, talking about the units and how they're designed, I do like how uniformed all 3 of the products look like. The 3 products that come here, obviously the 2 microphones and the receiver, they're all shaped exactly the same. They're this spherical round shape. I would basically describe it as a lipstick. It kind of looks like a lipstick container or a chapstick here. The 2 microphones are very simple. You can see here there's basically just a headphone jack and also a USB-C port that you use to charge these things. However, the receiver is the one that slightly looks different. It has a screen there, and the screen monitors my dB levels, and there's a couple buttons there, power buttons to control the dB levels and to toggle between the connections. And the only complaint I have about this, I do like the look, obviously. I do think this has a very traditional lavalier microphone. Forget the lapels. I'm just talking about like what we've been seeing with lavalier shapes. It's not square. This is basically what I think a lavalier should look like. It looks pretty good right now mounted here. So I do like how all 3 of them share the same form. However, when they're in the carrying case and you pull them out for the first time, or when you're trying to set this up, you do have to kind of twist each one to see which one has the screen, because they all look the same. And yeah, so that takes me like a second each time that I have to kind of, okay, 1, 2, 3, which one of these, take a guess, which one of these needs to be mounted on my camera. But other than that, I do like the look and the design of this. The only other complaint I have about my unit, and this could be specifically for my unit because I did get a very early product here. These are now in production and they have shipped and they are selling now. But my unit, some of the buttons were kind of mushy. So you click in and they don't come back out. I do have to kind of click it multiple times for them to pop back out. But other than that, these look good, they feel good, they're not too heavy, and I do think they are ultimately a pretty decent looking lavalier microphone on camera for this type of shot. The Thronmax Space is very simple to set up. Like a lot of competitors out there, it really is essentially plug and play with minimal setup and settings, alteration. Like for example, with the XC10, my camera here, all I had to do was mount the hot shoe with the receiver there, and then hook it in through whatever cable connection that you use. In this case, I am using a microphone jack, 3.5mm microphone jack into my camera, and it picks up the audio. I can see my recording right here. I can see the dB levels. It's terrific. It's very easy. I've used this on many different platforms. And the great thing about what Thronmax has provided here, they give you a really awesome carrying case that comes with the purchase. And there's a slot for everything. You have a slot for all 3 units. You have a slot for a bunch of cables. Literally all the cable adapters you would need. I've used this with USB-C, Lightning. I've used this with the 3.5mm jack. Basically iPhones, Samsung Galaxies, Pixels. I've plugged this in to all of those cameras, DSLRs, and they all just immediately pick up the actual Thronmax Space and you just record it. That's the cool thing about this. It really is just plug and play and it just works. So this microphone uses a pickup pattern that's omnidirectional, which makes sense. It needs to point up to where my mouth is, where it's mounted as you see. And it has a range of 50 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. So, you know, this microphone is very small, very compact. It is to be expected. And for me, the range, I mean, you can obviously listen to my audio here and you can kind of determine if this works for you. I'm not going to be really mixing this audio other than duplicating the channel to have it as dual mono, but otherwise I'm not going to be compressing it. I'm not going to be throwing a bunch of things to edit in post here to make my audio sound any different than what you're hearing basically raw. You know, I think the audio is acceptable. It's similar to, I guess, what you would say competitors are in this market. However, I do think it lacks a little bit of warmth behind its recording. It does kind of leave a little bit for me to desire in terms of how my voice sounds with this microphone. But regardless, I do think that overall, the sound is acceptable. It does work, and it's better than most of the smartphone recordings or obviously the DSL default recordings if you don't have any shotgun mics or anything mounted onto your cameras. This thing is a step above the default audio recorded on a lot of products. So Thronmax claims that the battery life here will last for 8 hours. I have not actually recorded 8 hours consecutively. I haven't done any shoot for 8 hours in a row, but I have used this basically periodically throughout a week, and it's basically survived until the end of the week. So about 5-6 days of maybe, you know, like right now I'm recording about 15 minutes here. So I do think that the battery life is pretty good for an average user like me or somebody putting it through its paces in a normal use case. I think a lot of people aren't going to be recording for 8 hours in a row. And the cool thing about it is if you're only recording solo like I am and you're not using both microphones, you can swap them out. If this one runs out of battery, you do have a second fully charged one you can plug in, which is exactly the same. It just records on the second channel. And like I said, you just duplicate the channel and it becomes a dual mono, same as this first one. So I do think there's a lot of versatility. If you use it as a single user, you basically have 2 full battery lives, basically like a life hack there. So at the end of the day, I do think there's a big market for this that's kind of expanding. Audio is very important, and I do think it is very underutilized in a lot of people's setups, a lot of content creators. And something like this, we do see a lot of competitors out there who have had this in the market, and I've owned and reviewed some before. But I do think Thronmax is entering the right space, and I do think this is the right time for them to expand into this market. And I'm glad to see more options in this field that will just keep drastically dropping the price point as more competitors enter the space and these products get better and better. So once again, thank you so much for Thronmax for sending us this, the Thronmax Space to review. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, that like button if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next one.
So the other day, I was on a Zoom call at work, and I just dropped everything I was saying, and I told them, subscribe.